Welcome everybody to another episode of Talking Television. Tonight we're talking about Chernobyl, episode 3. This one is titled Open Wide, O Earth. And tonight we are drinking. We're sticking with beer once again for Chernobyl. We are drinking Stella.
What do you think about Stella? What's your opinion on it?
It's not my go-to beer at the bar. I know it's got a big following, but it's not my cup of tea usually. So I'll leave it at that. It's a little off for my taste, I guess.
Yeah, it's not my favorite either. Once again, I'm not a big beer drinker, but when I do, I don't typically like the skunky beers. I'm not a big fan of Stella either, but it's here. I'm drinking it, and we got a little bit to talk about.
Yes, we do.
So this episode, or the last episode, we ended on the divers going down to open up those valves. And it was very dark and eerie, and the lights went off. And this episode, we opened right into that as well. And I think, yeah, just eerie is probably the best word to describe it.
Yeah, very much so. Their dosimeters are once again going off, which, makes you want to kind of keep up with that elevated heart rate. The flashlights are going in and out. They're, pumping them up, trying to charge them to keep them online as they frantically kind of search for the pipes that they're looking for so they can drain it down. And, we find out that they're successful. They make it out okay. Yep. And they're kind of, cheered as they come out for being courageous and getting the job done.
Good job from them. We said in the last episode, these guys were heroes going in there. They didn't know what was going to happen to them afterwards, and they got the job done.
Yeah, it was very brave of them to do that. Saved a lot of lives, I'm sure.
Yep. So after that, God, my least favorite character. We go over to the Moscow hospital, and Vasily's wife is in there, and she's running around just trying to see her husband. She went all the way to Moscow to see him, and despite the nurses, warning her against it, she just keeps going in and keeps going in and keeps going in to see him.
Yeah, you can tell that she's definitely in love and happy to see him and just trying to be there, but she's hurting herself by doing that.
Yeah.
She was specifically told, okay, you can go in there for a time period, but you can't touch him.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing she does, she gives him a big hug. Yeah. And he's, visibly, you can see the boils on his skin, and it's starting to really show and take effect of his body. And she still is in there in contact with him. And
she said that, she understands he was burned. I think she just thought it was fire burns because he's a fireman.
I'm not sure if she had fully understood what radiation was.
Right.
And that it could affect her just the same.
As a character, she's very frustrating.
Her character kind of represents the one side of the population that was, not aware of the pain and the suffering that is caused by the radiation and the fact that it's kind of like a invisible killer.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to hurt you long after you're away from the scene. But just the love that she has for her family, kind of makes her blind to worrying about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after that, we're flying around in the helicopter again, and they're taking more readings. And Legasov looks at the readings and says, okay, it looks like the meltdown has now begun.
Yeah, some more readings that they got showed that the lining of the rods was starting to break down,
mm-hmm.
and they could sense that above the site. So now the cooling comes into play. He says we have to build a heat exchanger
mm-hmm.
to cool this thing down. Otherwise, it's going to basically melt through the pad and enter the groundwater, and millions of people are going to be affected. And there's no turning back from that.
Yeah, but once again, it seems like nobody's really listening to what Legasov has to say.
Yeah, when he has the phone call with Boris and Gorbachev about the update, he basically says that they need all of the liquid nitrogen in the Soviet Union
mm-hmm.
To cool this thing down, which has got to be an unbelievably amount of liquid nitrogen. So just the sheer scale of what they're having to do here is kind of, beyond anyone's comprehension, really.
Mm-hmm. And after that, they go out for a walk, and we get kind of another exposition piece again, where Legasov explains how everybody's going to die. Basically, the people that were immediately affected, and then people more like him and Boris that had just been less affected than them.
Yeah, Vasily is the one that we really see showcased as far as the immediate effects.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, his body's breaking down at a pretty rapid pace. It progresses throughout this episode, you know, in the different stages, like Legasov had explained. And then, yeah, as far as him and Boris are concerned, you know, they were exposed, but not in the same, you know, levels that he saw.
mm-hmm.
So the damage that they'll see is more than likely going to be long term, like cancer effect and you know, reproductive damage.
Yeah.
If they were to have children. So
We also get another look at, you know, while they're out there on their walk, is we see the KGB come sneaking around the corner. They've been watching them this whole time.
yeah, the state is watching, you know, and that's one of the reasons why Boris had them leave. You know, he was aware that the rooms were more than likely bugged, and so were the phones, and that they were, you know, following them. And just the fact that they made themselves visible to them was kind of a statement in itself that, hey, we're here, we're watching you, and we want you to know.
We want you to know
Yeah,
that
we're
watching
here.
you.
So
Yeah, so be careful what you say and what you do.
exactly. And actually, Kamyak, as she's interviewing some of the scientists later, she kind of sees that firsthand.
Absolutely.
You know, she makes a statement, and boom, who's right around the corner? The KGB.
KGB, and they
Yeah.
take her in too.
Yeah,
She
they
gets
arrest her
arrested
for it.
Yeah, so that's pretty brutal for her. She said she wasn't hurt or anything, but I think what they were trying to do was control information, right? That's the big thing that they're worried about right now. Is they said there was a big information leak right after the accident, and they're working hard to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And that's the only way to silence people, is lock them up.
Mm-hmm. When she was arrested, she was sent there by Legasov to find out exactly what happened, decision by decision, in the control room. And that information is going to be super vital later, and you start to see it build up in this episode. They're trying to find out what went wrong, either who made a mistake, is there a design issue with the reactor cores, was the safety test to blame? You know, they're really trying to figure out what happened, and they're realizing, okay, it was something went wrong. We don't think, somebody did a single event that caused this explosion.
Yeah, a series of, you know, mistakes during the test. Or was it a design issue? Because the big, you know, thing is, okay, this happened once. Well, there's other reactors that were built the same way.
Yeah, with the same design.
We don't want this to happen ever again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what do we got to do to fix it? Is it a new protocol that we have to, you know, implement, or do we got to start, you know, redesigning these fast? So yeah, that's his kind of main, you know, focus for her, is to go and interview the nuclear workers that were there that night performing the test, to see what they did, make sure they didn't mess anything up.
Yeah, and we see her talk to some of the engineers and one of the senior engineers at Chernobyl. So, you know, she's gaining all the information for them to start going through and figuring out what the problem is.
Yeah, and she's the one that kind of causes a stink when she sees Vasily's wife there in the room with him, you know, when he's pretty bad, his body's degraded pretty bad, and she's within the plastic barrier, and you can kind of see through the window, you know, his hand is on her stomach, because she, you know, reveals to him that she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when she kind of flips out and pulls her out of the room and says, you know, I'm going to start, you know,
I'm going to tell people
I'm
what
gonna tell
happened
people
here.
what happened here, and yeah, the KGB
Puts a kibosh on that.
zoom in real fast.
Yeah. So my favorite part of this episode was the miners. The guy that they had come in to play the lead was just badass. He had tons of swagger. He really had that blue collar, you know, union type feel to him, where he's like, hey, you know, we're not going to do anything unless we want to do it. You know, you don't have any pull on us.
Definitely. You know, when the Minister of Coal came to their site
In that sweet light blue jacket and
yeah,
everything.
super clean, you know, blue suit, and basically told them to get all the trucks. You know, hey, I'm not going to tell you what you're going to do. You just get on the trucks. You know, listen to me. And he stood up for his guys and said, no, we're not doing that. You know, you can start shooting us now.
You don't have enough bullets for everybody.
You got to tell us what's going on, what we're going into, and then we'll make the decision if we're going to go or not.
And we noticed that actor looked like Ben Mendelsohn, which would have been a great pick for that role.
Yep.
Just a small little part, but it wasn't him. But the guy that did it did a good job.
I agree with you. You know, that actor that played the chief miner, he was great.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely stood up for his guys and just had that, confidence of a leader.
You know what they call confidence nowadays? Big dick energy. And it looked like he had big dick energy later on.
They got hot, man. They got hot.
Yeah, so they all the miners do end up going to Chernobyl, and he tells them, "Hey, I need more miners. You know, the window you gave us isn't enough time." They start digging, and they're hot. They said over 50 degrees Celsius, which is hot as hell.
And they wanted fans.
They wanted fans, yep.
But
they told them no.
With all the dust that they're generating, not only for them, which they're kind of screwed anyway, but just blow dust into the atmosphere
for everyone else around the work site.
Contamination, which they don't want.
Yep.
So solution number one is
take off your clothes.
Take your clothes off. But they kept the hats on.
Yeah, they kept the hats on. He did say, "Hey, this is how our fathers mined," which is interesting. That's something I've never known about. So if you guys know more about that, leave it in the comments. You guys like to give us extra info that we're missing out on.
Yeah, it's great. Keep it coming. We appreciate it.
So yeah, they mined naked. They said, is it really going to make much of a difference when we're all the way up by the reactor digging? And they said no.
Yeah, Legasov pretty much, he said, the uniforms you give us, is it really doing anything? No, it's not. So whether we're wearing it or not, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And then he also brought up a good point to Boris, hey, are you guys going to care for my guys after this is all done?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee you we're doing anything.
Boris is good at not, feeding information to people
he
that's
doesn't
incorrect.
He doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No, especially with the miners. He said they like it straight shot. That's it. So he told him, hey, I don't know the answer to that.
But they keep working.
But Boris was really good when they go back to meet with, all the directors of everybody, and he goes, congratulations, the Soviet and Russian people have done a great job, and we should congratulate ourselves. And that's an interesting way to put it. Instead of saying yes, X, Y, and Z was successful, they're congratulating themselves on completing all those tasks. Kind of patting themselves on the back.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of the mindset they had back in the day.
Yeah, you got to play the politics.
So, yeah, he's in the Communist Party, he's a career man. So he's that's his job. So he's going to play the role. So he stays in power.
One thing we both noted also was the makeup for the sick patients in the hospital was extremely good, and HBO really must have spent a lot of time to make that look as good as it did.
Yeah, the different stages that they showed of the radiation poisoning taking effect, that was, very brutal. I mean, it looked very real, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that and the acting, that went along with it. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The skin basically was just melting off their bodies.
And those guys didn't make it out of this episode, right? I mean, there was 7 of them that ended up getting buried. And they put them in zinc caskets inside of wooden caskets inside of there, and then buried them all in cement.
Yeah, just to contain, any residual effects that they were going to be giving off. Yeah, they were entombed in concrete, just like they plan on doing with the reactor.
Mm-hmm.
Building a sarcophagus for that as well. That's the next stage.
Yeah, we started seeing the early stages of that this episode, where he gave him that idea, and also looked like they were going around and getting additional men to come and work and clean up the area.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we can see is they just need more resources of all kinds, more people, more liquid nitrogen, more concrete, more everything.
More everything, absolutely.
Yeah, they're just bringing things in from all across the Soviet Union to band together and take care of this catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. Well, the next episode doesn't look a whole lot better to me. It looks like it's just more cleanup work.
More cleanup work, more cover-ups, and some people trying to get the word out there, the truth out there. That seems to be one of the things that's in the next episode that is trying to get unveiled. So, yeah, but the big thing is cleanup. Trying to get this thing contained more.
Yeah, sorry we're not a little more enthusiastic, guys. It's hard to talk about, all these people dying in these horrific ways and really be upbeat about it. But yeah, I mean, we've got 2 more weeks, so they got a lot of ground to cover in this.
We'll see how they choose to wrap it up. 2 more weeks, like you said. So we'll see what they choose to highlight. Obviously, it's based on a real event, so we know how it turns out. But yeah, we'll see what HBO's take is on how to wrap this up and who they're gonna showcase more.
Yeah, not only that, but I wonder if they're gonna end it, very close to just getting the first sarcophagus on there, or if they're gonna bring us more up to the present with the latest one that they put on a few years ago or not.
Yeah, my thought is they'll wrap it, with the first one, but then they might show some real videos, just like probably towards the end before the credits.
The current status.
Yeah, current status, and probably some text on the screen to kind of bring us up to speed. I think that's probably how they'll finish it off. So we'll see. 2 more weeks, so we don't have to wait too long to find out.
Yeah, let us know what you guys thought of this episode. I think it was laying a lot of groundwork for the next two, so I'm excited to see what they show us next.
Definitely. And as always, we are at Southport Media. Like, subscribe, comment. This series especially has been, pretty good as far as interaction with everybody, so keep it coming. We like all the insight that you guys bring to it. You bring a lot of stuff to our attention that either we messed up on or we just didn't know. So,
yeah, or we just missed an episode because
definitely.
There's so much going on in there.
Yep. So yeah, like, subscribe, and comment at Southport Media.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.